full-on fight there. You see how he ends up securing the first elimination to kind of set things up for themselves. But of course, this attention brings Peterbot back into the mix. Peterbot has shown that he's more than, you know, capable, but this early game fight against Agers, they have just held their own. Now for 2 games in a row here, you really have to respect Agers' capability to fight, and they're definitely flexing it here.
Yeah, they're doing a good job just defending the drop overall, but it just doesn't slow down. This is where he got that side angle. The biggest mismatch, the blue pump versus the Maven and Peterbot's inventory, but hey, he made the decision to push on over into enemy territory, and he's going to have to live with it. This Vert Taki still roaming around the map looking for elims. Now it's Noah and Northern in their line of sight. Northern was already gone, but Noah's trying to catch up. They're trying to play this one out as a duo as the chase continues.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that Vert and Taki end up going this way.
He died by Porto. How or why?
Like no one now really difficult.
Peterbot and Porto on
secure the elimination there. They get the
wasn't kid right now.
Just backs him up. Northern though, luckily, does not get full chase down.
Yep.
Talk about
Fuck.
Peterbot taking the momentum of his kind of reboot. Back on Higgs. Higgs is consistently going to be out of position here in the early games, just how he plays it. But oh my gosh, even with nothing, he makes it work. So
wow,
in a taste of his own medicine now in the early game. And take a look at the highlight.
don't fucking fuck with Kiddo head, Peterbot.
Aggression coming out of Peterbot out of nowhere. He's getting slowed down and stopped, but just the fact that he's just gathering the bare minimum.
Yeah,
at
but
his drop
that
and instantly going
that
out.
bad now
that's
because
communication coming out from Pollo, knowing he's not getting pushed, knowing
maybe
he's in a safe spot,
Peterbot
not
said
in
fuck it
danger
and
by any
only
means, but that's going to become
want to kill
increasingly
Kid
like
now,
more of a
not kill,
possibility that
but
somebody
get
does push
omitted.
over. You see the zone just at the bottom of Slurpee. But that just means Peterbot is going to have to start to think about that decision of, do I keep going for eliminations or do I slow down? Acorn still going through the struggles off of spawn. A little bit of a replay as Veno and Reef chase him down and honestly clean up that elimination. That surprise contestation from Acorn and Bolts, I think, has thrown a huge wrench into their game, and they haven't really answered back yet.
Yeah, definitely something different, right? Switching it up, deciding that, hey, look, we're going to push inwards instead of staying on the kind of the centerpiece or the outskirts there. They just end up fighting the fight and clashing there, and it's worked game after game. Look at this. 5 elims here, and now it's the most successful start we've seen, and Veno's just, I mean, it just seems so consistent right now. He's really picking up the pace right now, and he's leading. We know he's a shot caller, but last game he was solo clutching as well. And now look at this, pushing Higgs, who's out of position here on the outskirts, making that executive call to just go for it.
Yeah, and you see how Veno's playing this. He's putting a lot of tension onto Higgs, but he's quickly cutting back, trying to hit that hunting rifle shot onto Clicks. One headshot. Clicks regret that one, but Higgs does disengage off. So they weren't necessarily going after the elimination. I do suspect maybe some sort of drop, maybe some sort of other loot. They were trying to go ahead and get it for themselves, but Higgs got what he wanted and was able to disengage out safely, reunite with Clicks as they make their way towards zone. And typically it's zone 5, it's zone 6. You see players slow down because they don't want to have to go through the reboot blender. But now I feel like teams that have so much at risk here are being more and more protective, very, very similar to game 1.
Yeah, definitely. As the big names are kind of out of the mix for the most part, and it's everyone who's trying to fight their way up really getting active here, especially shown by Veno. Jason Jargo too. This game much different for Jason Jargo, right? Last game, Jace had a bit of a short hand, if you will. He was getting farmed up a bit there. This time around, though, he's got his footing. He's very much situated. Meanwhile, Bugha and King give up the steamy stack, so that's pretty interesting that they don't want to kind of play off that high ground anymore or either use it. They're just going to go for the foot rotate here, keep a low profile.
I feel like the lower profile Bugha and King make, the better they do and the more points that they're able to collect. Once they're in the attention, getting chased down or chasing for eliminations, that's where it does tend to get rough for them. But even after that last one where like Bugha was by himself, King on the reboot, they still ended up in a great position on the high ground. They just need to continue it with 4 games here. Aegis and Ritual, 114 points. Even though they're not necessarily in first place here, they have the most damage dealt in the lobby. But also on the other side of that coin, they also have the most damage taken in this lobby. So you're kind of seeing the dual edge of that sword to where, yes, they can go in, they can get eliminations, get aggressive, and get a ton of points, but also the same same thing where they can get ran down and things not go their way.
Yeah, gotta be careful with, of course, making that one misplay and then losing all of your momentum, and better yet, put yourself in an even worse position, right? And just farmed out. What seems like happened to Higgs here, essentially, as his loadout is telling us a story of someone who has just been struggling. He's barely got anything to work with there. On the other side, Yamzo, Josh, obviously continue to trend upwards, setting themselves very much in the competition here. They have full control of the booming base right now. There's not a soul in sight that's going to give them any type of pressure here. But they have plenty of time to work with. I love the fact that he's got 4 shockwaves on the Yamzo's hands, so expect something big from this team here.
Yeah, this is a team that they've shown the blueprint. They've shown they can win with the best of them in divisional cups, especially, you know, Reload Elite Series opens. But right now, today, there's a little bit of inconsistency. 15th, 5th, 12th, and a 1st. If they could just lock in the second half of the day, they could put themselves in range. Because as of now, they're only 16 points down from realizing that dream of going to the Esports World Cup Finals.
So that quick ambush right there for Ager, shutting down Ishu there. Basically camping out the vending machine. You talk about going and heading to the esports finals. Well, not when you're going to be getting dropped like that there. That is so unfortunate. Muzz's Sphinx, though, we've almost just barely highlighted them, but the only times we managed to jump in is when it's too late and they're on high ground and they're playing for this big, massive end game. Luckily for us, we get a little glimpse at what's going on here, and they're just perfectly positioned. Look at this huge base they have. Dead center amidst all these other players here inside the zone. Just perfectly positioned now. Meanwhile, we get a look at Veno. No elimination since we last checked in with them, right? So things are seemingly going very steady for this team here at the Steamy Stacks.
Yeah, you can kind of sense that, you know, the later the game gets, 5th zone, even though there is 2 more zones worth of reboots that you can achieve, it's just too small. It's too risky. Look at how close these teams are to one another. Now imagine somebody getting rebooted. In fact, we actually saw it. This team here was going through that scenario, trading off reboots. Neither one of them able to really get back into that game in a confident manner, at least not together. We did kind of see some solo performances go out, but they pull zone again. They're not quite inside just yet, but they not only have the high ground, they're just literally 2 inches away from being able to maintain their position above.
Look at this little lucky zone pull for them as well. Peterbot Boy have already committed so much to this base, and not to mention they also have just what looks like cap material too. So they're just going to go ahead and opt into edge, build their way through the side there and reinforce it as well. It's going to cost them a fair bit, but I mean, they're sitting very comfortable. Meanwhile, Kanata and Curve, what's going through their mind as they're sizing up the base up there, probably making comms, thinking about whether or not we're focusing. And Carbone and Evan don't like what they see, and they're actually putting pressure and onto Peterbot and Boyan. I mean, and that's the risk you take, right? That is likely to happen.
I don't even disagree with the play. I typically would think kind of more players look off into the distance. It is built out of metal, so them kind of dropping it as a duo, they're not going to be able to do it without them knowing, and that's where you saw Peterbot, Poyo kind of drop back, make sure that they're able to reinforce and hold on to that high ground. Poyo in the distance. See Higgs going down, Acorn getting an elim. Noah plays Vaughn, but for Cold and Rapid, I feel like they've done what they need to do. And this is very similar strategy to their win in that last qualifier. They get as many eliminations as they can in the early game, but once the second half, when reboots turn off, they kind of lock in. They play placement and they don't make any unnecessary risks.
Yeah, some players know that, you know, it can be time for a change, and we can see the pacing completely slow down. It's almost looking like game 1 all over again here, as the reboots are going to be cut off here. Higgs clicks, slowly sneaking up. It's Kingaling and Booga, and they don't have a eye in sight here. The headshot as well. Higgs, the fact that he had so much time to do that, and then look at this, sniping on in, securing the elimination. He is back like he never left. The full upgrade for the loadout, and this is why you cannot count them out. But talk about a huge elimination as the time ends there, Jacob.
Yeah, perfectly timed. Just lurking up and just getting that headshot. And that's the thing I'm looking at with these hunting rifles. I know Muzz does have that mythic, pistol that deals headshots, and it's actually 2 bullets instead of 1. So even in that in its own right is a little bit of a pseudo double pump going out. So interesting to see the limits these players will stretch, and lurking like that this late in the game came with its own risk. So I'm glad to see it actually work out for Higgs and Clicks and stay intact as a duo here. It is 7th zone, so barely to the halfway point of this game as Muzz connects with that mammoth pistol I was talking about, man.
How do we cut away from that fast? It was just like, hey, look, we're gonna show Muzz. It's like, bam, he finds him someone with it. Just crazy. It's all going through our minds. Muzz, I never forget that time he showed up and did that solo showdown and just flexed his mechanical capabilities. Ever since, I've never looked at him the same. He is just that good. But getting back to the action here, Peterbot Boyo, little ride up top right now as they're trying to land on top of the steamy stack. This is going to give them the ultimate key positioning here and now. And I mean, Jacob, I want your opinion. How do you think it's going to dice out for them? This is likely looking like a good game for them.
Yeah, they're not going to have to expend as many materials everybody else down below. So this is honestly perfectly played, even though they do have to move over. They have Crash Pads, they have Fizz, they have Shockwave, so they could be one of the last teams to rotate off this high ground, and they're already spotting the opposition. Clicks and Higgs, they're building up. They're saying, hey, it's pulling in our favor. Might as well take it. And this is what they're actually watching out for. But interesting enough, we thought Bugha didn't make it off of that reboot, but him and King are back into the game as a duo. Not as healthy, though. Just a sliver of HP for King, so they got to be ahead of the curve when it comes to this zone.
See Kanata Kerr just waiting in the wings right now. Off they go. Like this positioning here. Kanata leading away. Clean rotates there. Still looking back. Meanwhile, Clicks and Higgs just go for high ground. Repetitive actually of game 1. I was gonna say, was it early? It sure is. It's another zone 8 control here, and Peterbot and Boyo so far to me has shown so much interest in height. I don't know how this one's gonna end for them, and honestly what Bugha's still kind of lurking about. We've seen him go for high ground game after game 2, so expect a big finale here. Meanwhile, Peterbot opting on in, continue to play that second height, right? Working his way up, going for the gunfight, and this is how you take it back.
Yeah, you know how many players play for height. Everybody's just waiting. Hey, you say 8 zones too early. Maybe they're thinking the same thing. Wait for 9th, wait for 10th. But it's not only them. You got Aegis and Ritual working their way up that mountain, ready to contest. And maybe Peterbot Boyo sent somebody on their back. They immediately try to give it up. Venno and Ree feeling a little bit of pressure up above and down below. So they're forced to kind of continue to backtrack in their steps, hold on to their builds, but they have to go forward. Shockwave's coming out, and I think that's a perfect reposition by Venno and Ree.
Yeah, and redrops all the metal too, so you see Venno really leading the charge here. But as you take a look at high, does Clicks and Higgs know that Jargo and Jace are on the way here? They've continued to be that sneak factor here in the lobby. Cold and Rapid on the other side. 3 Elans now just turning online here. Not a lot of big material though from what we can see, but the Elans are starting to come through. There goes the mat split. Meanwhile, Muzz and Sphinx still in the game, as consistent as ever. They're just looking so sharp. Peterbot Boyo though, don't count them out. They go back for the high ground fight, and all of a sudden now Higgs and Clicks not out just yet, but they are damaged.
Yeah, they hear the chop coming in. Higgs forced to use the shockwave to go ahead and stay alive, and they do. Boyo goes down to the storm. Higgs gets the elimination onto Peterbot, but they lose Clicks along the way. Another solo clutch opportunity for Higgs, and again, that big launch pad. While everybody else down below is moving up this mountain, they're fighting tooth and nail. He is going to try to dodge it all, but Noxie Mason, they saw it at the last second. They begin to focus him out, and he has to nosedive all the way down low towards the bottom. No way to recover HP outside of getting an elimination.
This time he's got mats to work with though, so things are looking pretty as we're going back off the side of the edge of the mountain there. Meanwhile, Cold, Rapid on the move here. Cold at 5 Elans, trying to make it 6 here. There's pressure coming up from top. And it's Mason and Noxie's putting all these shots down here, really forcing players to collide into one another. Muzz and Sphinx, though, they seem like they have such control of the low ground here as they're completely healthy down low. But Higgs is the one that's lurking here. He's the one I've got my eye on right now as he's working around the outskirts, just masterfully rotating here and now.
Yeah, Noxie Mason forced him to burn through a lot of his materials, but he finds another elimination in the backside of the zone. Higgs still looking strong.
Oh
Rapid taking some damage, but Cold saves the day. This is somebody you can trust day in and day out to make plays and save when it matters most. But Josh goes up. Mason's going right back up. Jace is even trying to make a play for the high ground. Mason's not ready to give it up, even with Noxie no longer in this game. He runs out of builds, trying to pressure the backside of that zone, but it's Jargo. Him and Jace clean up that elimination to stay alive. 5 in the top 6.
And look at this. We talked about that control. Muzz and Sphinx. This is exactly what they need. Reed's going to be the perfect opportunity to get that little bit of material count here to kind of keep them in the game, keep things competitive. But there's pressure down low as they let their kind of guard down now. And there's so many players here. Jace behind the wall. Another elim for Muzz and Sphinx, and they are playing so well. And it's Cold and Rapid who are knocking on the opposite side of the door. But you see the shots from up top. Yamzo and Josh trying to regain control of the situation. And Cold and Rapid are going to have to make a big move here.
Yeah, for Cold and Rapid, this is a possibility. A shot at first place on the leaderboard. Slow start, but again, Natalia finished. But Josh and Yamzo, they want to get their second win of this day. They see Rapid go up. They try to target him out. They eventually find the elimination on both Cold and Rapid and put themselves in a 1v2 because there goes Yamzo. He gets knocked. So Josh, the young player, the one that's ready for the spotlight, can't clutch up. And Muzz and Sphinx hot streak continues.
They do it again there, Jacob, in the final moments. 6 eliminations and another win, and it all felt like it started with that mammoth pistol there. Congratulations to them, as Game 5 now, Zeke, is wraps.
Let's go, Buzz! All we need, that's all we gotta do. Every time, okay, we put a mammoth in Muzz's hands. Oh my gosh, mammoth, M. Muzz starts with M, that's true. In all seriousness though, oh my gosh. This was crazy. Congratulations to them. They were already in the top 5. I mean, literally trying to take that #1 spot. Guys, after a 6 elim victory royale, you've got to think they've got to be holding first, right? There's just, I mean, like, there's just no way they're not, right?
Well, we're gonna have to wait to find that out, Zeke. But honestly, what a smart play from Muzz and Sphinx. So patient. I think it was all the way until Zone 11, maybe even Zone 12, that they only had 2 eliminations. And honestly, who needs eliminations if you're able to get the victory royale? And that placement points is what's gonna be holding you up the leaderboard, Blake.
Yeah, this is reminding me a lot about Acorn and Bull's last qualifier. They are playing the most consistent end games with low eliminations. But it just goes to show they are playing the format. They understand the format, understand that they just need to make it to the end game. They don't need 10 elimination wins. It's just, they're playing amazing.
Oh my gosh. And I just can't believe, there was a moment where we tuned in and Muzz just like quick flicked and like hit a mammoth shot. We lost it. I was going crazy. I was just yelling 268. Oh man, now the question is that enough? Let's take a look at the leaderboard and find out after this break. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a moment.
Teammates have his back. Where's Nash? Gets the drop on Marius. Stays alive. They're targeting out Vanya. 3v1.
If you miss, you gon' regret it. Before you crawl, know I'm running it all. I'm built up like a pharaoh, now they praying that I fall. Through shadows, been burning through these battles. No weakness in my body, need to know you better ask somebody. Already, I consume the petty, it's plenty. I leave a penny for thoughts about how I'm living. Ay, turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it. No, it's a rap, got the match built like a pro. You know the legends go, harder than this audio. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it known. Me off the top, no way. I came and called my name. I gave my life into my place, earned everything that I claimed. Nothing ever could replace nice man. 3-4-3-4, square dance on the floor. This is not a ball, I'm above it all. Start, I see my glow up, where you supposed to go? Post it on the low, can't lose it, find the go. Leave me in the zone, I take your mind and then I snatch your soul. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it known. I get it, they love my whole aesthetic. Fake ops don't listen, told you this ain't hypothetical. Answer the call, prove this once and for all. Can't reach me with an arrow, summer nights I never fall.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's take a look at those standings because Muzz and Sphinx win game number 5 in stylish fashion, and 268 is enough to keep them in that number 1 spot. Muzz, we did it! We're holding down the number spot. Just gotta hold it down for 3 more games and everything is good. But we already had a moment to talk about them, right? So let's talk about Cold and Rapid. So it's kind of twofold. One, they had a phenomenal game here this last game, Kelly. A 3rd place 8 Elim Victory Royale. But in conjunction, remember, they've already qualified. So now qualifying is moving down to 3rd place. Ooh.
It is wild to see Cold and Rapid go from 12th and 16th to getting top 4 back to back to back. Cold and Rapid do such a good job on the mid ground. So many teams either like to go for high ground or they like to go for low ground. But I feel like Cold and Rapid might be the best example on how to play mid ground. They do such a good job going for these peaks down to the teams down below them. And then also being aware of who's just above them, going for these edits and letting teams crash down on them. Honestly, Cold and Rapid are such a great duo, and I'm so glad to see them jump up into our leaderboard again.
It's crazy to just see back-to-back weeks that they have the most eliminations. They're sitting strong at 32, and that is carrying their placement. Compare their placement points to Muzz's, and it looks like they should be getting blown out of the water on this leaderboard. But those Elims are keeping them in. They have a completely different play style than Muzz, but it shows you don't have to have the same play style to compete.
That's right. And remember, like we said, Cold and Rapid, they've already qualified, right? Now, suddenly, Josh and Yamzo are finding themselves in qual. Right, this is really big for them. They've kind of started and had kind of like a back and forth performances, but as it stands with 3 games left to go, they are holding down the qualifying spot with 22 points separating them and Kanata and Curb. So guys, what do we need to do, right? Is it consistency? Do we need to kind of slow play these games? Do we just need to kind of pedal to the metal and send in, say like, hey, with 3 games, we're going all out?
No, what Yamzo and Josh are doing is they're doing it perfectly. They're playing their drop spot really well. They're making sure that they're not taking too many early fights that are disadvantage to them, and they're waiting for the end game to really go on the aggressive. They're also making such great plays for height. A lot of these teams kind of seem to be taking height just a little early for my taste, Blake, but it seems like Yamzo and Josh are doing it just at the right moment so that they have what they need to be able to hold height and also fight anyone that tries to take it from them.
Yeah, they have the formula down and they're playing that consistency, and it's crazy to see them up in this qual range with 2 not the best games. It goes to show that these pop-off games that they're having are really keeping them in this.
Oh man, we got a competition on our hands, guys. And don't forget, I mean, right now with Josh and Yamzo at 223 points, dude, I'm looking down at like even 7th place Clicks and Higgs at 177, right? With 3 games left to go, anyone could make this qualifying spot. Get ready though, it is that time. We're jumping back into the action. Jacob PR, MDF, back over to you.
Yeah, look, Zeke, I'm looking at those standings and I'm starting to think to myself now here too, Jacob, the points, Muzz and Sphinx are looking so good potentially to beat all the way through here and now.
Yeah, this is looking like another good tournament. Ever since 2026 started, no matter what game mode you're watching, NA has been cinematic through and through, always coming down to the last game. And I hope that we can repeat that here today and keep it as exciting. Cold and Rapid rising up. Josh and Yamzo, I called out a little bit of their inconsistencies going into that last game. But 1st and then 2nd place, I think they have finally broken the curse. But Curb and Kanata, again, staying on their heels. They had such a good day to start it all. Can they catch back up? Game 6 is here, so let's jump right into it.
That sweet sound of the battle bus, and we are back into the action here for game number 6. And you know, this is a story that has really developed to be completely interesting. Acorn and Bolt, the surprise contest, you can see truly is affecting their overall points here in the tournament. And not to mention, you have Veno and Reet, who have been hot on the rotation, kind of stepping into the mix. And then to the north, that team that left the drop spot of the Steamy Stacks in south here as well. So it's just trouble all around for Acorn and Bolts. And even now, it's not looking too good there.
Yeah, you even have Noxie. Look at Noxie in the corner right now. He knows this contested fight has been going on almost all day long. He's trying to interrupt it, trying to get some free eliminations for him and Mason, because he knows even though they're kind of contested with Reet and Veno, they're splitting that drop up so they can make a play like this happen. And timing is of the essence, because you don't want to let Acorn and Bolts heal up as Peterbot off the gate gets one elimination. Did he get both? Almost looking like he could have possibly got both. That would have been a full wipe right out of the gates.
Yeah, getting that quick follow-up right there. The precision, obviously, here and now is starting to come through. Peterbot and Pollo, though, are in the round, what was it, 7th or 8th place, so they're not exactly playing to the best of their capabilities. They've kind of fallen off just the last round or two, but do not count them out. These are all teams that are still in the race here. 3 games is plenty of Fortnite to look forwards to, and even someone like Veno and Ree obviously understand that as they're trying to close the gap here and now. Stepping back to Noah, though. Man, Noah's had a tough time the last couple of rounds. Seems like teams have really figured out that they can kind of crack down here and earn themselves some points, man. He's been pushed out time and time again. Virgo and Avi taking their learnings and winnings from before and just continuing to follow up there in a little dance just to go on to make sure they push a little salt in the wound there. So well played for them as they continue to earn, but Northern's still up and standing, and this is why they play split.
Yeah, and you got to keep in mind, too, for the teams that might be a little far out of reach for the qual spots, there's still a ton of money up for grabs, so you don't want to give up at a moment's notice. 3 games left, plenty of points left on the board. Just kind of looking at the feed, cold, business as usual, finds an Elim. Ishu does go down, cleaned up by Osid and Scare, so already action continues all around the map. Cold after getting 1 elimination, you can see him and Rapid split up, but they're just taking fights all around. Rapid gets that 2nd elimination as well, and they're going back to the strategy that won them qualifier 1. Eliminations in the early game, placement and safe gameplay at the end.
And this is aggression at its finest, right? They push south. They don't stay Steamy Stacks this game and try to fight Booga, right? Who's been playing very, very well. They're just like, nah, let's go down south. Let's get a piece of that other, team dynamic, that fight happening down below them. And it works out very well for them. They secure themselves a couple eliminations there. So well played. Meanwhile, Dozier, though, has to give up the drop here. He's forced to the outskirts. Remember, this team was fighting pretty much toe-to-toe with Agers at the drop, and he went both ways there. So this time doing something completely different. Sphinx and Muzz have a lot to worry about, though. There's probably the most amount of players around them when you compare it to the other games. So it does make me wonder.
And it's being caused by a lot of this early game action. Eben just being stuck in the cycle, and that's the thing. Your job as that solo player staying alive isn't done just because you got the reboot. You have to make sure your teammate lands. You got to make sure your teammate has a chance to load up and is not being chased down in this situation. So at certain times, while your teammate is kind of going through it, there's not much you can do as a solo. You just got to hope for the best, and that's why we're seeing, or what we're seeing a little bit here early on. Muzz and Sphinx, even though they don't pull the zone the same as they did in that last game, you see them farming up. On the other side, Clicks and Higgs seemingly in a little bit of a struggle here. Clicks does go down, and they're fighting together here, and it's Yamzo and Josh on the other side. When it comes to Yamzo, Clicks, and Higgs, former trios of all last season. I wouldn't say there's a ton of bad blood, but sometimes, you just get anything that you can on your side to point a finger.
I mean, Yamzo and Josh just come up and out of nowhere after that win in game number 4, the 2nd place in the last round. They're very much in this conversation and in the race as the leaders. But hold up, Veno here. Looking for that Higgs-esque headshot. Not quite finding the tracking there to do it. Yamzo and Josh, though, pushing the fight here. I like that they're initiating here as they've kind of isolated Reed out to be a solo, but here comes Veno here to back him up. Veno with a huge shot. Man, he has just continued to flex his mechanics. He's looking like prime young Veno lately, and the rumors might be true. He might also just be back here. Let's see what he can put down. There goes the 2 eliminations. And wait a second, was that the full finish, though?
Yeah, that was the full
Oh my
finish. So for
gosh.
Josh and Yamzo, you have literally just been put in the pressure cooker. From that third place spot, which would qualify you because of cold and rapid, to going down with very little points here in this game. Their last two have to be astronomical if they want to secure that spot. And that was something I was wanting to say last game. One bad performance here can cost you that spot at the end of the day.
And that can happen for anyone here, you know, whether you're kind of inside the conversation or you're up at the top leading the, you know, the pack right now, like Josh and Yamza were. That right there is going to just put them on ice and really make it come down to the last two game performances now. The qualification cutoff last time was around that 340 point range. So you still do need two really solid games. And they're going to have to do that back to back, which is a difficult ask for any duo here and now, as we've seen the level of competition on these last several rounds have just been, I keep saying, grand final-esque. It just looks so good. High level competition we're watching at play here.
It's almost a prime example of why when you're getting aggressive in the early game like this, you send one player. You know what I mean? They tried to isolate Reed. They tried to get a little bit of a 2v1 situation, but it just did not work out for them. Venno was able to backtrack. He was able to kind of move on over, and it ended up being a straight up 2v2. And when you're in that situation, he got that quick hip fire shot with the hunting rifle, and then he figured out a way to chase down Iamzo for that second elimination. So even though I'm just as surprised as you, sometimes that's just the roll of the dice in this situation here.
Yeah, things are settling in here as we start to watch Kanata and Curve right now. We like what we're seeing. Just max material here, Jacob. Little far north pools. We start edging our way towards fifth, and look, no one's in sight. Kanata, Curve have a lot of room to work with right now. It's looking very, very good for them. Meanwhile, Peterbot and Pollo here on the move.
Every game. We're going to be seeing at their base up top. And there are some teams that do kind of know they do launch pad from the top of this. Remember, you know, as Slurpy Swamp, just like in this game, pulls towards the south, there's going to be teams coming in from the north, from the western side of the map, trying to get scraps, trying to get any of these barrels left over to try to heal up their lost HP from actually being in the zone. And they typically take that same rotation. Peterbot and Pollo actually do make with that launch pad that they have up there. And it's the big launch pad on top of that. So it can cover a ton of distance relatively easy. Booga and King here. One elimination so far. I wouldn't say it's any different than what we've seen so far. Booga and King, not necessarily known for their high elimination games, but with only 3 opportunities left, they're about 100 points down. They need to figure out a way to close that gap in a safe manner so they don't go down to placement early.
Yeah, I'm thinking Booga and Kingling are just going to start labeling or become to be labeled the team that goes for height after game 1 and 2. So we can see a little bit more of that. That'll solidify themselves up there. As we watch Clicks and Higgs make their rotate through, forcing Noah out this draw spot here. So we're going to be coming on in, cleaning up house here and now. On the other side, you have Cold and Rapid, base down low. Somehow found themselves here. This is a lot different than I would have expected them on the dead side of the rotate here. 4 eliminations, and man, they're just looking like they're trying to go for the repeat back to back right now, as they've kind of slowed down things for themselves, right? They're like, hey, look, wait a second. We got a bunch of points. Let's just play for endgame now.
Yeah, and it's not every day you see players like, yeah, you see them kind of slow down, but the slurp water right here, it's not every day you see them utilize it. It's only 1 tick around HP and shield that they are gaining back, so they're going to utilize that position for quite a while, but it saves them from digging into their pockets and using their resources that they want to carry with them for as long as possible. Cooper and Curly still over at Dirty Docks. You see them as well, just going ahead and dropping that med mist. They did find the elimination onto Noah Plays, and right underneath them, just breaking it, using that launch pad, just like, you know, the Slurpy Swamp players are doing to try to get in towards zone. And you can kind of see right now, I know it's not even on a mini map, but where the full circle is actually pulling, even though it's a half and half zone, half of that zone is unplayable into the open water. So this is going to be a condensed zone from here on out.
Yeah, if it wasn't stacked enough already, well, now you get that pseudo forced, you know, layering on top of one another, given the zone action here. Cold and Rapid have officially healed their way up. We just talked about kind of min-maxing their position here. And do remember, there's just so much prizing on the line as well, right, Jacob? So that's the other reason by even someone like Cold and Rapid might not be playing so aggressively here, although they've been qualified. There's still a lot more on the line for them.
Yeah, you can kind of see our top 3 players when it comes to that damage and why he's playing so well. Cold was #1 in the lobby in terms of damage dealt so far, leading both Peterbot and Agers, who again have been playing phenomenal as individuals. But I think, you know, as good as Cold is, we got to give Rapid his flowers for how well he's been playing. Not just today, not last week, just the entirety of 2026 so far. You can even go back a little bit into the end of 2025 after the Global Championship, and kind of gives him the pick of the litter. He's the one that caused this roster mania for the most part, forcing roster changes in both Reload Elite Series and the regular BR FNCS. So it's just interesting to see if things continue to get shaken up with FNCS right around the corner, or this is where the dust will finally settle.
I mean, Booga's just in full control of the hands of Tom. And you know what? Although he created a lot of chaos, I'm happy he's been showing up here today. It's been worth it, right? He's given us the narrative of you know, his ability to continue to perform here. So I'm excited for what comes next. But Muzz and Sphinx, man, they have a chance here and now to really break away and secure their position. 274 now. They can manage another top 3. I mean, it might all but be done for one of the spots there, given how you know, how much ahead they are right now this late into the tournament.
Yeah, they're almost 68 points ahead of being outside of that qual bubble, which is housed by both Curve and Kanata. That started this game at 201 points. And it goes to show how stacked it actually is. Got Jason Jargu, Reet and Venu, even got Clicks and Higgs in the conversation at 183. With these 3 games left, there's still plenty of opportunity. Just have to capitalize. And you can see Clicks and Higgs getting more and more primed up as the tournament goes on. It's just unfortunate when one of them gets separated. The solo clutches have to come out, and you know how chaotic it is as a solo in these end games, especially if you don't have the shockwaves to break through the builds. Crash pads are nice, but shockwaves is like a get out of jail free card.
Yeah, definitely. What's interesting about this end game is that we're actually coming back to the home territory of Peterbot. Boyov, Clicks and Higgs, right? This is their general drop location here. And as we know, when you get this much favor, I mean, usually goes very well for you. You know, Boyo and Peterbot are kind of out of the race right now, but one massive pop-off here, and they'll be right back in that conversation. Meanwhile, get Veno and Reed just playing so smart in a full team elimination there. Couldn't have been timed better for them. They snipe up a quick 2 and just once again continuing to play very well, finding what looks like highlight after highlight, to be honest. It's just impressive.
Yeah, we're basically going toe-to-toe with Jason Jargu on that leaderboard for 5th and 6th place. As the zone pulls forward again, staying near Slurpy Swamp, so if there's any barrels left over, you see players just kind of utilizing those right away. Going a little bit towards the north, Jargu and Jace, just talked about them, 203 points. The only things they've gotten right now is the placement points, 2 teams worth. It starts at top 15 and slowly but surely cascades in from there, but then you get the bonus points kind of in top 3, in top 2, and very especially in top 1. You talked about this going over the Slurpy Swamp familiar territory. Peterbot and Poyo finally bringing out that launch pad to just dodge everything down below.
And saw Veno kind of see what happened there too, went back, picked up that material. I was gonna say they have the chance now to focus the high ground, and they end up doing it. They turn back, they find Boyo. They were well timed for them, but not exactly solidifying the full elimination, but they are gonna secure high ground here. Veno repositions up, and who knows better than to play this than him. Obviously the champion himself here holding up the high ground now. This is the first we've seen of them, but Curve and Kanata go up with that super launch pad as well. Another breakthrough there from Cold, I think, to try and take down High. And Muzz wants a piece of this, and Muzz is actually a solo here now.
Yeah, this is necessary for Muzz to use that launch pad, the Flowberry Fizz, because now in some cases he might be out of render distance, but as time goes on, he's getting closer and closer to the eyes. Peterbot and Poyo still looking like they're trying to clash with Veno and Breed, and they find success. They take away the high ground. They send them down below. Muzz a little bit too close to comfort for that team on height, forced to nosedive down to try to live to fight another day, and this is very, very important. Muzz stays alive here. He builds himself a cushion in that first place spot, but if he goes down in 13th place, in 12th place, he's giving everybody a shot.
Yeah, well, look, he's doing a great job here. He's got plenty of mass to work with, too. And on the bottom, Higgs once again finds himself in a solo position. Clix and Higgs are struggling to find their way together into the end game and make something work. But each of them have clutched up time and time again. Well, we're asking for a lot now from Muzz, and we're asking for even more from Higgs if he wants to stay in the race.
You see Muzz taking his time. He had the slurp juice, crash pad, using the flowberry fizz to cover distance all the way to the other side where the zone is opening up. Slurp juice still intact, so he's gonna get HP up as well. Higgs saving the med kits, which is huge. Trying to utilize somebody else's med miss smoke, but it's just cut a little bit too short. And there's one build left. This is where he has to be careful. Tries to go for a 180, one pump, but he gets flanked from behind, taken down outside of top 10 yet again.
And Muzz is right there behind that action, almost watching it all play out. He doesn't even make a move there. Instead, he just buys his time here. 11 duos remaining here in the game. Muzz is almost closing in on side of top 10. Meanwhile, Curve is also alive by himself. And no, someone jumps in the box, and it's Action Curve. Manages to clutch up for himself here, making it a top 10. And again, if you're any of this solos, you are happy to watch teams fall here and now, but it's up to Muzz to clutch. No, down he goes to the hands of Reeds.
Yeah, so the cushion finally started to end here, but for Curve, this is everything. Josh Niamzo already went down. This is a chance to put yourself inside of that bubble in qualification range. Uncontested this time around. Cold and Rapid, they've been after fight, again, playing patient from the 7th zone onward. Curve finally goes down, so his run to the top of the leaderboard getting cut a little bit short here, but did he get enough points? The big question.
Well, Dozier and Eshu make their first end game big time here and now as far as trying to earn themselves placement points, but Cold and Rapid, look at the points starting to rack up here. 7 Elans as well. They're doing so much. Into the box they go, but no, they get folded quickly, and there's no time for them to react. Eshu, Dozier, the surprise team from down low, and look at this. Boyo and Peterbot are just trying to take the easy road out, letting the low ground teams do what they do. So uncharacteristic of them to just try to not really involve themselves in the action until the timing is perfect. It's almost like they just want a textbook game to close things out here.
Yeah, I think they realize where they're at on the leaderboard, and if they want to give themselves a shot going into game 7 and 8, they have to end up with a win here. But Cooper, one and only solo left in this game. He's the meat in the middle. Dozier, Ishu are the ones down below, but Peterbot finally dropping to cause a little bit of chaos. He goes after Cooper first. That's the solo and a possible 3 more points, but he shockwaves out up into the direction of Poyo, where he's launching grenades down from above. They're going to be able to connect, cause chaos. Peterbot cleans up the elimination, but on to height they go. Ishu trying to target out Poyo, but he shockwaves up again, finally falling down. He gets the elimination there. 2v1 situation, and it's never looked easier for Peterbot and Poyo to secure that game win.
Just doing it once again, making it look nice and
Peterbot
smooth
win
there,
a
right? You
thing
can tell
to
that they
win a
really
thing.
wanted that win. In game number 6 now, we get to put a ribbon on there, Zeke.
Well, it's always gonna happen, right? It's always gonna happen. Started earlier on. We get a victory out in game number 2. Why not in game number 6? Why not do it again, right? What's crazy too, the fact that the zone came on over to Slurpee, right? Like the fact that it came back then, they just didn't have to go anywhere. They're like, oh, all of our food is being brought to us. Thank you, I guess.
Yeah, you could see them taking that advantage and kind of just running with it and honestly playing a little passive. Monster D said it the best, that it was a bit uncharacteristic of them. Typically, Peterbot and Poyo, they'll launch themselves down. They'll go for eliminations. If they see an elimination, they'll drop down to grab a refresh and then shockwave back up. But they just kind of stuck on high the entire game.
Anyone
Yeah,
can
this reminds me a lot
make
about
lane.
game 1, where we're watching the same team take the high ground over and over. And with Peterbot and Poyo getting another victory royale, that is jumping them up. To go back to what I was talking to in the pre-show, this could bring the qual up to top 4 instead of top 2. With Cold and Rapid playing super consistent and Peterbot and Poyo now jumping up in the leaderboards.
That's scary though, right, Blake? I mean, with 2 games left to go, now you've got Cold, Rapid, Peterbot, Poyo up in there. I mean, that in some ways it makes it better, right? Because it's like, okay, well, we'll need less overall points to make that qual, but now we're also opening it up to everyone else. Like, dude, with 2 games left to go, this could still go any which way. We have to look at the standings after this break. When we return, more to break down and start prepping for only 2 games left. Bro, I can't! No!